Hello, this is Daniel Sanchez. This is a portfolio presentation. I'm a student of mental health counseling at the University of Mary Department of Counseling. This is for the requirements of Humanities 799 grad student assessments. Overview. In this presentation, I will cover the following topics. Reflection on my experience as a student at the University of Mary to include influence of reflection that the mission statement of the University of Mary has had on my education and further career and future career. How I feel I have grown as a servant leader. How the Benedictine values have affected my growth. Reflect on how the counseling program has affected my values. Which Benedictine values are most influential to me. How I will bring these values with me in my future life, career, and community. Reflection on feedback received and given for assignments, counseling skills, student disposition forms, and how they correlated with the University of Mary's mission statement, program objectives, and ethical codes. How feedback received have affected my growth, how I have grown as a result of feedback received, what factors of feedback given have affected my growth, how I will use lessons from feedback received in future professional development, how I have grown in giving effective feedback, managing conflict, and confronting ideas, how I was influenced and grow my multicultural perspective, what multicultural experiences I attended that challenged or broadened my worldview, how do I continue to grow in my views on multicultural interaction. Reflection. As I reflect on my time at the University of Mary, I strongly feel that the foundation of the university's mission statement influences me through my personal and professional life. I feel that serving others in the community is an honorable and life-changing journey. I have come to the conclusion that not all people are the same and we all have different worldviews, whether it is an African American, Hispanic, Native American, Asian American, LGBTQ, Caucasian, and so on. We all are made in the image of our Creator, and as such, we must strive to love one another as we love ourselves. When I first started this journey, I remember feeling out of place. I had not attended to my educational growth in many years. I was unsure, did not feel as if I was prepared for such a task. I felt as if I were too old to accomplish my goals, and even embarrassed at my age compared to the other students. I was, however, called to this endeavor by God. I remember having a conversation with the professor and explained what brought me down this path and my past. She mentored me through my initial steps, not only in understanding my classwork, but also understanding what I was called to this program for a reason. I remember explaining the Benedictine values at that time. I look back on this and did not appreciate in full the servitude leader meant. But I know now that this value explains what I was looking for when I started this program. I wanted to be a driving force for change towards others. I feel that my growth has been guided by God. He has placed people in my path which have helped me to understand that life learning is real. I remember that my first assignment writing task was, shall I say, uh, not of the most effective use of the English language. I learned that education can be like a fog of war, in that it takes time, effort, tenacity to see clearly. This has influenced me to grow and be courageous enough to take risks into the unknown. I have gained a strong foundation to approach my profession in an empathetic, ethical manner, but still be flexible enough to perform outside the box when needed. I believe that the one Benedictine value which most strongly reflects my being is that of servitude. My worldview has not been an easy one. Through my time at the University of Mary, I have lost three close members of my family, two being within 1 week apart. I witnessed this Benedictine value firsthand, as all my professors and peers reached out to me and gave me the spiritual strength to continue. This act of selflessness from others really affected me, and I plan to pay this forward to my professional and personal life through example, not only words. When I attended the residency week at the University of Mary, I was asked to show my skills as a counselor by doing a counseling session, which was reviewed through feedback from my peers and professor. Although my intent was effective, my delivery was not. I was too straightforward, aggressive, and was given very productive but brutal feedback from my peers. One peer said afterwards that she would have gotten up and walked out crying. I deserved that feedback, as it made me understand that what worked in the military may not be as effective in other settings. I feel that this alone has forced me to grow in several ways. Empathy for others, active listening, even when what you hear is brutal. Flexibility in counseling, and the understanding that although my heart is in the right place, the effective transference of counseling skills requires several more factors, such as empathy, understanding, verbal and nonverbal language, and so on. I plan to continue to grow in my acceptance of feedback and view it as a tool to grow, not something which is negative in nature. When I first started this program, I found myself struggling in giving effective feedback. Not that I was rude, but rather prioritizing others' emotions to the point in which I did not want to make them feel bad. This was not fair to that peer. I would start my comments with, "Great job, really love your post," but never really giving that peer what was supposed to be constructive. I now understand that feedback is not meant to be negative, but rather a way for us to know where we are strong and what areas need growth. I will continue to grow in the use of this tool and using verbal feedback whenever possible with clients and other professionals in my career, and to teach others when possible. I had one class which I had to retake in this program, one which I felt was very effective in, which I was very effective in. I was disappointed at first, but now I am so happy I did retake that class. This was the cultural awareness class. I recall that our adjunct professor was replaced and recalled that I was struggling with this class. I had difficulty with understanding how culture affected our profession and did not agree with several topics, such as white privilege, as my world views were different. I was not argumentative, but possibly misunderstood in my explanation of why I did not agree. When I took the class again, I self-reflected and approached the class in a different lens. I learned so much in that class. I believe that God wants me to be strong in this area for whatever He has planned for me in the future. I believe that the events which affected my growth in this area the most were Native American powwow. I was told to not approach the elders in the community, but rather have a member of the tribe request them to speak to me. I also was told to bring gifts such as tobacco, sage grass, or lemongrass. I learned so much from them about their history, spiritual views, family structure, among other things. I also went to an LGBTQ parade in Austin, Texas, as I was there for my father, who was in the hospital. I learned that the diversity of this community included many different influences, such as social standings, ethnicity, disabled members, parents, subcultures, and the feeling of unity. I learned how oppressed the community feels on a scale which is as extreme as other historic persecutions in our nation's history. I will continue to grow in this area of my profession in research in different cultures, and during my intern and moving forward, I ask all of my clients, including Caucasian clients, about their cultural influences, which sometimes they look at me and they're kind of thrown back by it, never been asked about what culture affects them. And to my surprise, a lot of Caucasians are more than open about whether they're Scandinavian, German, and how it influences them. So I found that very interesting. When I first started the program, I remember looking at all the different theoretical approaches in confusion. I learned I leaned towards CBT, but would consider myself an eclectic therapist in training. This is due to understanding that I do not have the expertise in several theoretical models, but want to grow into them. I believe that my focus on modality has grown throughout the program, in that I can use several modalities in conjunction with one another, such as CBT, SFBT, play therapy, but by no means am I as proficient as I want to be. This will come with time and experience. I plan to start my career in private practice and will use this experience with all populations, but want to specialize in couples, child, and military communities. As I gain more experience, I am interested in learning EMDR and brain spotting, as I find them both very interesting. I have been exposed to EMDR during my internship and have seen the impact it has on clients. I have grown my leadership roles in several ways throughout my time at the University of Mary. I'm a member of the ACA. I'm a member of an outreach team of professionals for the Montreal County Correctional Facility, providing mental health services to incarcerated community. This team is comprised of mental health professionals and social workers. Future plans are to expand these services to rural areas in North Dakota in the future. I have learned that assisting this community can be challenging, but the rewards are worth it. I have learned that moral courage and understanding this community can affect others by giving hope to those who may not have any. I feel that my biggest challenge throughout the program was my ability to continue after the untimely death of my father and less than a week later my youngest brother. I struggled to even think about my education, much less act upon it. I reached out to my faculty and they gave me the strength to go forward. This I will carry with me. Through this trying time, I was able to refocus even even when it seemed impossible, and reminded me of my grit and tenacity which I have inside of me, and lead to my keeping up with my education. I do plan on paying this forward throughout my life. My proudest moment in the program came during our residency. The professor which was critiquing my session said that I was out in left field. She was about to write it on my eval, but then I brought all of what seemed to be scattered thoughts into a pinpoint, and as she said, you dropped the mic. She then said that I accepted feedback very effectively. This made me proud because I have an unorthodox approach at times, but am effective in making people think. I plan to take an ethical approach to my self-care and that of others through the effective use of balance in my life, both professional and personal. I must balance several aspects of my life through learning, leisure, and a holistic approach in my craft. As I look back at this journey, I feel proud but sad. I am proud of my accomplishments and doing something which I was driven to by God, but sad that in that I will miss my peers and faculty. You have all taught me so much about what I thought I knew. I feel blessed that I can honestly say God asked and I delivered. After graduation, my short-term goals are to become comfortable with not being comfortable. I plan to start pursue of a doctorate degree, and my long-term goal is to complete that doctorate degree, continue to live my life and relationship for God. I do not know what is in my future, but I am not afraid of being comfortable not being comfortable.